up, y'all? It's your boy Major 7th. I am the host of the 7th Quarter Podcast, exclusively on the new Old Heads Network. And shout out to my lawyer. I call him legal staff. Something came across my desk a while ago. I really don't have a desk, but I've always wanted to say that. But there is a sports insider named Scoop B. Shout out to Scoop B on Instagram. There's a video that surfaced a while ago with the interview with him and Gary Payton. And the topic came up, Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, and what type of comparison is that, or is it even fair to compare them? So I'm going to share what he said, and then we're going to have some story time. I'm going to tell y'all some of the things that I've heard in the past and some of the things I still hear and how I feel about these comments, because I think this shit is hilarious myself. But let's play the clip first, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts on what GP said. All right?
Are Jordan and LeBron comparisons fair?
No. Two different basketball players. Jordan was a guy who he's gonna make big shots. He's gonna take the ball every time and shoot it every time he has to. I think LeBron is an all-around basketball player. If you ask me who's the better all-around basketball player, LeBron James by far. He does everything. You know what I'm saying? He passed the ball better than Jordan. He can dribble it, I think, a little bit better than Jordan. Shooting-wise, I don't think so. Rebounding, I think he did, but Jordan did rebound. But I think they're two different basketball players. And you can't just say that. Two different basketball players.
All right. So, shout out to GP. First of all, he's a legend. One of my favorite players. I grew up on watching Gary Payton in Seattle and, him and the Rain Man. So that's a part of my childhood right there. But what's so hilarious to me is all of these years, all I've been told is listen to what the guys that played the game say. Listen to what the guys that played the game. How do they respond? What do they say? What do they say? And now what's going to happen is, I'm going to predict this. I want y'all to quote me on this. What's going to happen is, at least amongst my friends in the circle of people that I talk to, what's going to happen is the 90s is the golden era. That's the only era that cannot be chastised. That's the only era that cannot be picked apart. That's the only era that everything was perfect. The game was perfect. The defense was the hardest. It was the most complex. Everything about the 90s was the best. And the only reason people say that is because it was the era that Michael Jordan played in. They dissect every other era. In the 60s, Bill Russell was playing against dentists and proctologists and all this other stuff. In the 70s, it was just wide open and nobody really was, it was other different teams were winning and it was not as competitive, and Kareem was just playing and killing everybody and all this. Then you get to the 80s. The 80s actually, they treat the 80s kind of like the 90s too, but the ironic thing about that is the 80s was dominated by super teams. Now that's a bad thing now in 2021, but that's for a whole nother conversation. But the 90s is the only era that cannot be debated or picked apart, and that's simply and solely based off Michael Jordan fans. Anybody else, they might bring up the expansion era. You might look at teams like, and I grew up watching all these teams, so don't hit me with the you don't know what you're talking about. I'm old enough to know I watched the 90s and remember it very well. But you look at one Hall of Famer teams like the Knicks, y'all gassed them up. Patrick Ewing and a whole bunch of dudes that played hard, played tough. Defenses were tough. I give you that. Hand checking, 97 or 87 to 93 basketball games and all that type of stuff. And be clear, I'm tied to the 90s, so I know we grew up in that era, the shoes and Gatorade and Michael Jordan's playground and, all of that. So I get it. Like, I was in that era. I was born in the 80s, early 80s, so I get it. I was there. But I'm curious to see how the response is going to be now when a guy from the quote-unquote golden era says what the hell I've been saying for the past 9 or 10 years, that LeBron is the most complete basketball player I've personally ever seen. You can talk about GOAT. You can talk about the clutch gene and all that goofy shit that they make on TV. That's cool. That's your opinion. I respect it. But as a complete basketball player, did anybody notice how easily Gary Payton said that? And what's going to happen, and y'all mark my words, what's going to happen is this. Gary Payton's 90s card is going to slowly start to get stripped away and chipped away. They're going to say, well, it's the media getting in front of him, getting around him now, so he's not that credible. They're going to say, well, Did he lead a championship team? Does he have championship experience? Why? Who needs to listen to him? These are the things that you normally hear when somebody says or speaks against Michael Jordan. Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. He's just hating. He's just mad because he lost. But Gary Payton I know he's a all-time great and a favorite of a lot of my homies that I know. So I'm curious to see how they're going to strip his 90s credentials away from him now that he's clearly said with ease that LeBron is a much more complete basketball player than Michael Jordan was. There's nothing wrong with saying that. That's his opinion. What's going to happen is, again, like I'm telling y'all, they're going to strip his credibility like they do Isaiah Thomas. Oh, he hating about the Dream Team. Oh, that's the only reason he always speaks against Mike. Oh, everybody that speaks against Mike is bitter. So is GP bitter? I'm just asking. What's GP mad about? Oh, GP mad about the Dream Team, right? He's mad about that? Got it. No, he mad about the finals. Yeah, GP's mad about the finals. That's why he's saying it. He's got to axe the grind because they lost in the finals with the Supersonics. That's what he's mad about. Got it. I mean, he's not credible now. He's only one of the greatest point guards ever and one of the most elite defenders to ever play the game, especially from the point guard position. But now he don't know what the hell he's talking about, and the media probably is getting to him. So, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen on this one. And what the hell does GP know? What y'all think? Please put it in the comment section. You know, I'll try to respond when I can. But I'm just curious, man, because all I've ever been told is I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Listen to the players that played the game. That narrative only works when it works in favor of your argument. So I'm curious to see how people are about to strip GP's credibility away from him now after he has said that LeBron is more complete than Michael Jordan. Man, I hope y'all don't flatten that man's tires, man. Cut it out. I'm gone. Peace.